The Pieces Lie Where They Fell by Evil Humor. Edited and co-authored by Anon E. Mouse Jr. Read for you by My Name is R. Chapter 12. Xvital. Xvital tossed the near-empty bag back to Night and did her best to calm herself before approaching the gatehouse. It looked like it hadn't seen a coin in years. The bricks of the main building were very chipped and cracked. The wooden gate seemed rotten, with the metal bars covered with rust, and there were no guards patrolling on the walls. They might even get lucky, and the entire gatehouse being abandoned. Although she would have to return Knight's money if that was the case. Walking up to the door to the antechamber, she bit her lip and reached out to knock on it when she stopped and blessed her amazing luck. What she saw made her smile. There was someone sleeping in there, with the door opened just enough for the guard to look to see outside if he was awake. "Oh, this is too easy," Xvital chuckled, as she held the door steady with her left hand, and brought her right and tail hands crashing into the door, causing the guard to jump out of his chair, eyes darting every which way as he levitated his sword and started to swing it around. She would have been much more worried if he had taken it out of the sheath. "Who's there?" he shouted, trying to fix his helmet and straighten his armor at the same time. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, easy there, buddy," Xvital said, with a concerned tone. "There's no fire." She bit back an annoyed growl when Windbreaker started to cough again. "Well, there's one fire, but it's taken care of. Me and my—" The word escaped Xvital with her floundering until she remembered what Rex had said. "Associates. We want to get to the middle." "Look, Missy, you might not know this, but if there's a fire, then I need to check in if I have to keep the upper middle second cadenza to Magi gate open or not." He let out a huff and shook his head as he made his way over to the desk that held the notebooks that were attached to the main military system that gave out the daily orders. "Wait a moment, sir." Xvital moved in front of the guard, reaching out for the small bag of cash she had made from Knight's stash. "Regal Pants, descendant of the great General Pants, who accompanied King Blueblood the Great when he avenged our goddesses by slaying that evil bug creature." "Who could have doubted that?" Knight said, trotting into the room. "I thought I heard you, Regal. I wondered where you went to." "Knight, you bloody bastard!" Regal exclaimed as he walked over to pull Knight into an embrace, with Knight clearly hiding an annoyed look on his face. "What is the number one dullest in the entire West doing in this dump?" "What the Xvital said. We simply want to get to the middle," Knight said, flashing a fanged smile. "And if you could make it so that no one knows we were here, it would be truly grand." "I don't know, Knight. What's in it for me?" Regal asked, with open greed in his eyes. "Well, for starters, I know that the next city tournament is coming up, and the team for West could use you as a water colt." "No thanks," Regal snorted, eyeing his desk again, but Knight quickly stepped in front of him. "What do you want, then?" Knight asked sharply, giving a pointed glare that, instead of causing the guard to throw them out, got the unicorn scheming more. "Second chair, after you," Regal said, before looking at Xvital and chuckling. "That guy would have a fit if I tried to take his spot." "I am right here," Knight hissed, "and I will see what I can do for you, Regal, once I am back at the gym." Regal looked at Knight and then grinned. "I want you to write a note saying that you'll give me your sword if you don't." "You greedy little second-rate hack!" Knight growled, stalking forwards. "Relax, Knight," Regal laughed as he shook his head. "It's not like I'm asking for a date with that mare of yours, although she seems likely to be a fun night." His snickering was quickly stopped by the sheer murderous look on Knight's face, and he paled ever so slightly. a real feat on his white coat. Of course, I'm sure you'd kill me if I tried that again. Why don't you just trust my word to have you in the second chair, and you will not need to explain how you were assaulted in a dead-end guardhouse all by yourself. Yeah, I will go do that, Regal said, looking every way except at Knight or Vittel. She stared at the unicorn before letting out an exasperated grunt. Well? She asked. What? He snapped, before looking over at Knight and wilted under the glare. I mean, yes, noble visitor? With an unamused snort, she rolled her eyes and pointed with her tail hand towards the gate, tossing the coin bag to Knight. Can you open that up? Oh, right, Regal said, walking over to the portcullis, and began to raise it up. Raise it up. Eyebrows raising as he noticed all the unusual species walking past. You've got some interesting new... Well, not that, as you're the king of antisocial. And you are still the prince of incompetency, Regal, Knight fired back, strolling past Vittel. If you let down the West again, I will see to it that you are trained properly, and I will do it myself. Gulping, the unicorn all but pushed her through to the middle, the iron wall almost slamming onto her tail hand as a result of Regal's desire to avoid Knight's offer. They all walked down the main road until they were out of sight of the gatehouse, before ducking into the alleyway and letting out a sigh of relief. Well, that was easy, Vixley grinned, looking to pat Knight on the back. Vittel was going to do the proper thing and yell at him. What the Tartarus were you thinking? She growled at him, the bat pony looking at her with a frown on his face. I was dealing with the situation, as I knew that stallion, and that should have been an advertencia para que te calaras y te alejes de aquí ahora que nos va a casar el gobierno. Everyone looked at her, with Vittel realizing she'd slipped into Baronicio again. The Minotaur looked at the Diamond Dog and asked, What did the kitty cat say? She said it was a red flag, and that Knight should have remained silent and hidden. Due to when our foe takes over the government, they will be able to deploy the means to chase after us, and it would be prudent to give them as few leads as possible. He then turned and looked sharply at her. Adimas, Vittel. Tengo que saber si está mercado negro en el que estas tiene negocios con dragones menchurinos, ya que estoy muy uncomfortable con esa. ¿Qué? No! Vittel shouted, insulted at this line of questioning. No soy tan estúpido para involucrarme con esos escritores, Rex. Solo me aseguro, the Diamond Dog said, with a sigh of relief, before noticing that everyone was staring at them. Sorry, just inquiring something of Vittel. Nothing to be overtly concerned with. Right, Windbreaker said, before turning to face Knight. Still, she was right. It was a very dumb move. I mean, what if that Regal guy decides to get back at you and tells his higher-ups about us? Because I know how petty Regal is, and how much he'd love to strut on a grand stage such as a summit of the Canterlot's best. And I know his attention will be elsewhere shortly. I saw on his desk there was a black message, and he only has his father left, so he will have to deal with a funeral and managing the transfer of power into being the new lord of the Pants family. I guess that's a lucky break, Vittel said, biting her lip, looking around this alley they had ducked into. It was still near the wall separating the upper and middle, but it looked and smelled like a proper alley. Middle ponies might want to be upper ponies, but they dumped their poop just like anyone else. It smelt worse than the deepest part of the Quanmitzel kingdom. Okay, she might be exaggerating just a bit. So what's the plan now? Windbreaker asked, tilting his head and blinking his different-colored eyes at her. Same as before. We need to get into the middle proper of this quarter, get some info about the north to see where we can cross over. Then, once we get across that river, canal, Rex said, before clearing his throat. Once we get to the east, I will be able to provide greater aid, as that is where my workshop is, and we should be able to get supplies. Correct me if I am wrong, but wouldn't that be dangerous, as this mysterious foe will be chasing us? Isn't that what you just told me? Although Knight whined, he did bring up a good point. Due to the fact that I am not an equine, purchasing my own laboratory required using proxies to ensure a much fairer price. Rex fixed a glare upon the noble. Gaze. It is mine in all but legal recognition. Still have to pay the ruby taxes, despite the fact. He grumbled the last bit, rolling his eyes. So that's how we'll do things, Knighty, Vixley chimed, patting him on the back. So, how will we do this? Split in teams of 3 and go looking for dirt? Yeah, Vittel said, holding out the map, tapping the location of a safe house. At 4ish, we will head there. Everyone can see the street? She looked over her shoulder to see all of them nod in agreement. Back street, I assume? Paige asked, cocking an eyebrow. Yup. Vittel rolled up the map and tucked it into her pack. Vixley, you're with me. Knight, you're going with Rex, and... No. Knight glared at her, stepping closer to her. I'm going with Paige to make sure she is safe. What, you don't think I could back her up? Wind growled at the stallion. Vittel facepalming at this idiocy. Considering that the first incident I have with you is with you being drunk, Knight drawled out, causing the griffin to puff out his coat as if he was about to leap and attack. Thankfully, Vixley stepped in. Whoa there, guys. Enough of the horn measuring, okay? You're both very pretty, and I'm sure the kitty cat has a reason for setting us up like this. Yeah, because I trust Rex to have a clear head, but he'll need someone to give him some clout, and frankly, Knight, you look like you're about to go off on someone, Vittel said, with Knight rolling his eyes with a heavy snort. Paige has a nice enough nature, so I'm willing to bet that others will tell her stuff, with Wind here acting as a deterrent. That wasn't the real reason, as Vittel didn't trust Knight alone, and she didn't know about his relationship with Paige to know how well she controlled him. Thus, she wanted one of the group that she did trust to keep an eye on him. So what about this? Vixley said, twirling her hammer around in a way that let her scoop Knight up. With a quick movement of her arms, and a very high-pitched squeak of surprise from the bat pony, Vixley decided to push her luck further by ruffling his mane. Me and Knighty form Team 1, Rexy and Paigey form Team Numero Duo, and you and Windy form the third duo. How does that sound? Please put me down. That got a round of chuckles from everyone but Knight. Vittel couldn't see any real. Sounds fine to me, Paige said, walking over to the dangling stallion. I'll be fine, as I do have magic to defend myself, Knight. She then used that magic to beep his nose, with the Colt letting out another squeak, blushing. Okay, if we're all done being silly, Vittel said, looking at Vixley, who nodded her head and placed Knight down, who had a scowl plastered on his face. Let's get going. All right, end of the chapter, and there are a few things I wanted to point out about this one. First of all is with that bit in the Spanish. When I first read it, there were a few things I picked up. I speak a little Spanish, but I am not fluent with it. I noticed that Okay, to be honest, I didn't really know what they were talking about, but at the end there, when he said nothing to be overtly concerned about, I thought to myself, yes, it is something to be subtly concerned about. So, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it means. I used Google Translate to translate it because it is better with Spanish than I am. Let's see. She said, da, da, da. And that should have been a warning to shut up and get away from here now that the government is going to hunt us down. And then Rex said, also Vittel, I have to know if this black market you are in has business with the Manchurian dragons, since I would be very uncomfortable with that. Then she answered, I'm not stupid enough to get involved with those creatures, Rex. And he said, I just make sure. Well, this isn't a perfect translation. And like I said, I speak a little, or I read, I don't speak any Spanish. I read Spanish about as well as someone who can read the first of the Alice and Jerry primers, but not the rest of them. It's not great. Alrighty, what else did I have to say? Oh, right, I was going to mention how every time that Vittel tries to speak Spanish, I notice how badly she's mangling it. Numero duo. That's not number two, that's number pair! It's dos. Dos is Spanish for two. Right, well, she clearly doesn't speak Spanish at all. She just pretends she does. And macho. Macho. That's not Spanish either. It's it's obviously on purpose. And I'm bouncing between amusing and just rolling my eyes. I think that's exactly what it's aiming for. Yes, she is really bad at Spanish. Anyway, there was something else. Oh, that's right. I was going to wonder about whether we'll ever learn what exactly Knight and Regal's history is. Because Regal appears to have made some serious mistake that ended him up in this out-of-the-way assignment. He, he used to be somewhere that Knight ran into him, so presumably somewhere better than this. And then let West down so badly he ended up here. That may or may not come up later in the story. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you had fun listening. See you again later. Bye.